Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We have another workshop with Julianne Benjamin and Dominique Kelly, and they are going to be talking to us about culturally relevant read aloud text. They've got lots of great things to share. Make sure you check in on Twitter, hashtag the Ed Collab Collaborative, workshop 18. So just put a hashtag 18, and I will turn it over to Julianne and Dominique now.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique.
And I'm Julianne.
I don't know, are we supposed to see us here?
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Okay.
All right, sorry. This is our first time. We're just trying to figure everything out. So we may have a few technical difficulties, but we're so excited to share with you guys. I'm just going to share the screen so that you can see our slides that we have prepared. All right. Culturally relevant read aloud text presented by
Julianne and
Dominique.
We have our, at the bottom there, we have our Twitter handles there. You can follow me at Camp Brooklyn, and Dominique. You can follow Dominique at TeachDK6. We're both in New York City public schools, and we're happy, excited, and probably overbooked in terms of the amount of books we have to show you today.
Yeah, so many books, but we're excited and we'll get to as many of them as we can. All right, so a little bit of research and naming. I'll let Julianne start this one off.
So culturally relevant teaching. So I actually just pulled this right from Google. It's pedagogy grounded in the teacher displaying cultural competence. And so for me as a human being, as an African-American, as a Black girl, as a teacher, so for me, anything that is, important to me and in terms of what I feel in my heart is important and that resonates with me, I need to make sure that I can pull that out and show that and demo that to my students. So I have to have a deep understanding of what I feel culturally is important for children. And of course, kind of quiet my voice also to hear what's important for them and from them. The teacher needs to exemplify the skill at teaching in a cross-cultural or multicultural setting. And that means, you need to understand that the people that are sitting in front of you as our students they are human beings, and they're coming from, a varied background. They're coming from different walks of life. I know Dominique and I are in Brooklyn, and we've worked in very West Indian, Caribbean populations. We've worked in, heavy African-American populations, but even there we had Chinese students, we had Arabic students, we had students who wore hijabs, we had students who were Islamic, we had students who were Christian. So you have to really kind of take it upon yourself to understand that your perspective, while it's important, you cannot only think of yourself and what you believe in and what you think is important. You have to make way for what other children think is important and what's important to them in terms of their home, their religion, their culture. Culturally relevant text also allows students to relate to the course content. Of course, if we're teaching any number of the standards and we're talking about themes and central ideas, what we're teaching has to be relative to what they believe. So what they experience, their life journey, what they're going through, and their life context. All right, so this is just a personal unpacking of my own. Just kind of put it together in these words. If the lesson you're teaching, if the concept you're unpacking, and the book that you are reading, if none of that jolts alive your students' interest, then it's not resonating with the children, therefore it's not relevant. So for me, anything that jolts me on the heart level, that you have that student that's sort of looking down, maybe doodling, maybe wandering off, looking out the window, those are maybe some cues for the teacher that the student is not checked in. Their interest level is not their interest level is not being stroked. And how do you know what interests them? It's when you see them sort of jolt alive, when you talk about something. And for our African American students, a lot of times what jolts them alive is if they see books with, you know, other Black children on the cover, if they hear names of characters that sound like their names. All of these things, you know, for us equals students' interest, which therefore means it's relevant to them and it relates to their life. Want to take this one?
Yeah. All right. So relevances, these are some of the kind of a list that we feel aligns to what is relevant. So if it's like Julianne saying, if it's important to the student, who is important to them? So if we're reading something in class and it doesn't include who they feel is important, then why would they even be interested in learning about it or listening to us about it? Of course, as teachers, it's our role to kind of get them into things that they wouldn't normally, or learning about things that they wouldn't normally try and kind of invest themselves in on their own. But there are also those moments where they pick up a text, or we're reading a text in class, and that person or that topic has no relevance to them at this stage, and it's kind of pointless. We're all in the classroom bored. Nobody is really learning. So it's no use in spending our time on that. We also believe how the student sees himself or herself and how they connect to the text. What I find oftentimes is students really connect to text that they can see themselves in, like
Yes.
Julianne was saying. If I'm reading a text, if I'm reading rules, so to speak, and I have a little brother or a sibling, and I know that I have to do some of the things that character is doing, then I'm automatically going to connect to that text because I see myself in it. Versus a child who is the only child, they have no clue why this person has to do these things or why this character feels this way. They can't connect to it. It has no relevance for them. So yes, on one hand, we can teach them something new. They can learn about it. But on the other hand, they're not going to own it because they're not familiar with that type of life. If the characters relate to students, to the student's individual story or life, I kind of just spoke to that. Whatever we're reading in class, I always start the year with "Oh, the Places You'll Go," and I mean that little boy, or I don't even know if it's a boy. We talk about that because the kids want to know, is it a boy or a girl? It's Dr. Seuss. I don't know. But the character goes through so many different things, and at first the kids don't see themselves in it until we really start to get to the meat of the text. And then they start to realize, yes, we don't know if this is a boy, a girl, is it a human or what, but they're experiencing problems just like we would with these fictional monsters and going up in air balloons. We're not doing that, but we're actually going somewhere. Let's talk about where we're going. And then the conversation kind of spins from there.
And it becomes subjective for them. So
yeah.
They say, oh, this is me. So this is going to be me. This is the stages of my life. And so I'm going to be going through this at some point. So it does become subjective to them, yes.
Mm-hmm. Cultural connections and self-identity. I feel like those kind of are aligned and can be joined together. If they can relate to something culturally, maybe they can learn something about themselves that they knew, but it kind of can, I guess I want to say it makes them, what is the word I'm looking for? It makes them feel
like vested or invested in what they're doing?
Yeah, but it kind of makes them feel comfortable with whatever that thing is.
So that's the connection there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So like if like The Skin I'm In.
Yes.
That book is very, very deep, and a lot of little girls, I introduce it to them when they're having a hard time with their identity and owning who they are and being comfortable with themselves. They read that book and they connect with that character, and then they feel like, okay, if she can do it, so can I. Now, validate is the word I was looking for.
Love it.
They feel validated with the feelings that they have, but then they get to experience a character going through that and coming out of it with some success and feeling confident.
I love it. I love that.
All right, so we're gonna get into some.
Let's get into our books.
Some books.
Okay, so we're gonna actually show you some of the books here. Each Kindness we're gonna start off with, and it's this book here. Hope you're able to see.
Oh, we have to switch back.
Okay.
Thank you for bearing with us. We're learning. All right, here we are. We're back.
Okay, so Each Kindness. So now, Dominique, you want to help me here, please? So these three books here, kind of on the same vein in terms of belonging or not belonging. This business of being new to a school, to an environment. You can use these in the beginning of the school year. You can use these in the beginning of a unit. Anytime you're unpacking a new concept. But I wanted to pay homage to these three books, mainly because I love the authors, and they bring up a lot of cross-cultural competencies here. So we have the sandwich swap, where these two children, one's American and one is from the Middle East. This book was written by the Queen of Jordan, Queen Reina, and they bond over their food. So the food is very different from the American girl who gets her sandwich packed by her dad, peanut butter and jelly. And then, of course, the Middle Eastern, the Arabic young lady, she's eating hummus and pita. And so they're each going, what's that? Or what are you eating? And so they bond over that. There's a lot of conflict, and they come together as one. One green apple, it's the same thing, the symbolism of the green apple amongst all the red apples. Another way to bring in different cultures and different religions in terms of the young lady is Muslim in the story, and again, belonging and feeling out of her element and finding ways to make decisions about how she's going to fit in. And the same thing in terms of Jacqueline Woodson. The story follows a little girl who comes to school. The children are not nice to her. They look at her funny. She's dressed kind of funny. And there's a little bit of mystery whether or not she's homeless or, what she's doing there. And then she sort of disappears. And so this business of, where did she go and why wasn't I kinder to her when I had the opportunity? So it's the missed opportunity about being nice and being kind. And so these three definitely bring the African-American experience in, the Islamic experience in, and then even, a little American girl in the sandwich swap who is in another country. And so she's finding the same sorts of choices and difficulties in her life that she has to deal with. So definitely all culturally relevant, great read alouds. Again, at the beginning of a unit, the common core themes for these would be these would be central idea, and the one about determining a theme. There are a lot of universality in the themes of these three, so these three definitely get these titles down: The Sandwich Swap, One Green Apple, and Each Kindness. All right, we're moving along. And just so you know, we have lots of them. We have lots.
We have so many. I wish we could just pick up the desktop and show you these stacks of books.
So this one here, there's a few of them, but I just picked this one here, Gervais' Journey. So in the school we used to work in, we had a very big West Indian population, and we had students who were in the country illegally. And so this business of refugee and even just to connect to what's going on in the world in terms of immigration and the ways that people in America come down on either side of the argument and what they feel. So this is a true story, Gervais' Journey, and it's a diary of her. She wrote a diary of her life in terms of where she's coming from, and there's a lot of geography that you can teach into in terms of where she's coming from and where she's going, a lot of family bonds, family connections. The book is, you can pick it apart, you can read it maybe about 2 to 3 different times. It talks about the war, the factioning that's going on in different parts of Africa. And again, we had lots of students in that part of Brooklyn. It was Flatbush. And we had amalgamation of African Americans, West Indians. We had some Asian students. We had African students. And so if this is culture, if we're talking about a benchmark of cultural relevancy, we definitely want to read books like this that shows children that yes, maybe what they're going through and what's going on with them, and if they're coming from Haiti or Jamaica or whatever part of the world they're coming from, and they might not be here illegally, they too might connect with the refugees, the struggle about being a refugee in America. So that's that one, Gervais' journey.
Yeah, I think when we did this, we intended to spend maybe like two days on it, but I feel like we ended up reading this and going back to it all throughout the year.
Yes.
And we ended up maybe talking about it for like a week instead at the initial start of the school year. And it really just, for me, it helped me get to learn a lot about the students. Yeah. And I didn't know that they felt uncomfortable living in America until we read this. Yeah. And then it just gave us, the classroom kind of felt like a safe haven for them to talk about that. And then their parents would say, you know, well, they told me you read this book to them, and like when they would come in for conferences and things like that. So it really just, again, validated the feelings that they were having.
And also we had a few students, but one specifically that year, she was one of the students, she was one of the people, she was a child, of course there were children on that migration. There were thousands of people who were walking into America, and she was coming from one of the Central American countries. She came in with no home language, and that sparked a lot of conversation, and that she was very open and she wanted to tell her story, even though she was speaking Spanish. We had the L teacher who helped us out a lot with the translation, but it made other students, when Dominique's talking about a safe space, it made other students also want to tell their story, which for me, I realized that they might not want to tell their story unless somebody makes it safe for them. Yeah. Or they might have been warned at home to not tell their story and not be open. And of course, we're talking about illegalities and issues with residency. So yeah, they were terrified. But it does bring the cultural competency right smack in the classroom when you're reading a book and they can see the visual. This morning we attended the sketch noting session, and so all these ideas started to stream back when we go back and revisit these books for this school year in terms of how they can sketch out their responses visually. So that's a powerful book. And like there's about 3 others. There's Muhammad's Journey. There's the
Russian boy.
There's a Russian boy. Yeah. So there's about 3 or 4, maybe 5 of these books total, and they're all called the child's name and its journey, and they're all this thin, and it's all picture book, and it's all very, very geographic and thematic in terms of the entirety of the book.
Great read.
Great read. Okay, back to Jacqueline Woodson. So she has lots of picture books. This one's one of my favorites. So Pecan Pie Baby talks about, a lot of the book is about decision making. So it's a really cute story where mom and a dad and a little girl live, and mom's gonna have a baby, and the little girl here is upset a new baby's coming, and she won't be the baby anymore, and she's having to make decisions about how she feels about this. And so mom and dad try to talk to her and tell her that of course she's still number one and she's still loved, and we have to make room. This book sparked off a war in the classroom. This picture book sparked off a war because so many of our students have siblings, and so many of our students, and Dominique and I work in traditionally underserved schools where we have a lot of foster care students. And so the students that are sitting in front of us have foster siblings that maybe, they don't want to claim, or they do claim, or they're upset, or they're missing their own family for whatever reason. They're in a foster care environment. And it just sparked up a war, where it just goes to show you how a picture book can, just a cute story about, making a decision to welcome a new baby. It just sparked off a war in terms of conversation. I'm sorry if you can't see. Conversation, and I point to this picture purposely because I wanted to also speak to the, the aesthetic. So the way that she looks in in the book. Jacqueline Woodson does a really good job of, and Sophie Blackall is the illustrator, does a really good job of drawing to the likeness of Black girls and how they wear their hair. And it might seem like a really simple thing, but it's not. It's very, very powerful for young students of color to see themselves drawn in a book that's a real book. They understand that the power of the book, and this is a thing that's out there in the world. And a lot of times students are in classrooms and they are reading books, they're exposed to text, and they never see characters that look like them. So when they see that and they saw this, it melted their heart. Some of them were shocked, and I've heard comments like, "Oh, they're black, Miss Benjamin," and she
has beads,
and she has cornrows, and so pick those kinds of, don't be scared of those kinds of books. Don't be scared of these kinds of books. Don't be scared of the visual, the illustrations, because it's powerful for the children, and you will not see any more perfect engagement when you connect with them in this way that they see themselves in the book. Instantly they check in. Instantly they stop what they're doing, and they engage, because they understand, oh, this is about, this person looks like me, this must be about me. So yeah, it was great. It definitely sparked off a lot of good rich discussion, and we talked about that, and we came back to it many good times. So Jacqueline Woodson, Pecan Pie Baby. All right. Next, Your Move, Eve Bunting. One of my favorite books. One of my favorite books. I hope you can see that one, Your Move.
It's a little bit of a glare.
Yeah, a little bit of a glare. We're sorry about that. But this book, if you're brave and you really want to, kind of get down and dirty with your students of color, you will get this book. You might want to get a couple copies of the book. They'll all want to read it. The way I did this read aloud, I read it in 3 different parts, in terms of maybe 4 to 5 pages once, and then 4 to 5 pages more, and then so sort of like a beginning, middle, and end. This is a great book to talk about plot. The beginning, all of the rising action, the climax, the falling, all of that. Great book. This book is about, again, decision making, and 2 brothers of color. One is in a gang, the older one, trying to force the little one, or the little one is trying to be like the older one. I want to be like my older brother, and I want to be in a gang. And again, we have students in gangs in our school. And we're in middle school. We were in middle school last year. Dominique is in elementary now, and I'm still in middle school, and we have gang members, and they're 10 and 11, and they're in gangs.
Even in the elementary school, the influence there is huge.
Huge. And huge. The whole point, right? So elementary school, a 5th grader, a 4th grader, right? That could be him, and then for me, the brother could be in the same school, but in the 6th or the 7th grade. So it is like, it has like direct laser focus of impact in terms of, again, the cultural relevancy, the aesthetic. They see themselves on the pages of the book, so they are invested in the book in that way. And it's talking about, Eve Bunting is talking about what's going on in their lives. This decision to be a part of a gang, a part of a group, bow out gracefully, not succumb to peer pressure. And not to say that only students of color deal with peer pressure. Every child, every human being deals with societal pressures, self-imposed pressures. So this could be used for any class, but if you're talking about if you're sitting here and you're watching this session and you're saying, I want to get some titles because I want to see and address some of the students of color that are in my class, and I don't want them to feel isolated, this is a great place to start. You can start with the Pecan Pie Baby. You can start with the Your Move. The only thing I could tell you is be prepared for
some really deep sharing out from students. Some things you're going to question, like, get the counselor to come in.
Right.
You know?
And it talks about this business of, should I report this? Or should I report that? Because they literally like come alive, and they yell, and they get into it because they're so passionate, because it's so purposeful. It's so directionally related to what's going on in their lives. And a lot of them just can't believe, oh my God, Miss Benjamin, I was going through that yesterday. Let me tell you what happened. And they just start talking about what's going on in their life, right? Life imitates art, art imitates life. And I literally could, listen to their story and turn to 2 pages in the book, and it's the same thing. So, be brave. We believe in you.
Yes,
we believe in you.
It takes a lot of kind of courage, and just to step outside of the box. Even with your administration, they may feel a little uncomfortable, depending on who your administration is and kind of their style.
Right.
But I feel like we've always been fortunate. When we talked together, we had really supportive administration.
Yes.
And if it's anything that's going to benefit the kids, it should be okay.
Right.
That's my feeling.
Right. And if you are feeling, that's a great point, Dee, because we have had good administrators in that way. But if you're feeling like, maybe this won't be accepted with your administrator, I suggest that, I recommend the conversation, open the lines of communication, and, talk about this session, and talk about the Ed Collaborative, and talk about, show them the archive, and talk about how can I do this? Would you support me? Some of these books here are in the schools. Most of these books are my personal property. I've gone out and purchased them because I'm an African-American teacher, and I teach African-American students, and I want them to see themselves in literature and rich texts. So it's out there, but for the most part, I agree with Dominique. If it's going to benefit children, and administrators can truly see through that, I think they'll be on board, and they would want the books in their schools, and they want those conversations going. And again, just another plug in terms of all of these can go back to any standard. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Any standard in terms of what you're teaching, whatever unit of study, whatever pedagogical practice you're using, whatever curriculums you guys are using. If you're talking about theme and central idea and point of view and plot twist, all of that works.
Even
with these books.
If you're kind of getting pushback and you can't use it in your whole class, if your school is a school that has like advisory periods, or breakout groups, and teachers get to pull a group of kids or assign a group of kids, or even like if you have a separate homeroom, this will be something, you could read some of these books in that time with them, just to start discussions and learn about who they really are, and what fears they have, and what kind of things they need help getting navigating through. Because their parent, they give them advice, they tell them one thing, but they come to school for that same type of feeling in a different voice. And some of these books can help you do that.
Definitely. Okay, my last 2, and then Dee's gonna get hers going here. So this one, another one of my favorite ones. I don't know if I'm showing it correctly. If you can see it, the Day of Ahmed's Secret. Hope I'm pronouncing that name right. This one is about the life of a child who is illiterate, and who is journeying and dreaming of being literate. And his secret, I'll tell you guys, because the kids aren't around right now. But the secret is that he learns to write his name, and he becomes literate toward the end of the book. So we can show them at the end here. That's that is definitely the giveaway there. And then the other page, I'm going to move that down a little bit. Yeah, he learns to write his name. And so the book, we see Ahmed traveling through the streets of a Middle Eastern country as well. So when you have students who are Middle Eastern, who are Muslim, like we do, another level of joy comes over their faces when they see even the name, the Arabic name itself, in a book, and we're reading the book together. This book is also quite beautiful. The visuals are quite beautiful. You see the bazaars and the street traffic and the community in terms of where he's going. And he walks around all day long, and he's selling things. So there could be conversations about child labor, and he should be in school, but he has to help the family with money because, you know, they're poor and he has to, you know, contribute, but he really just dreams and yearns to be going to school. And so the book takes him through, the book takes us through his journey to do that and how he's secretly kind of, you know, off to the side, hiding, trying to learn and write his name. So it's an amazing book. Again, it's very beautiful if you want to talk about a lot of geography as well, where he is, where he's from. And of course, students who are from that part of the world will also definitely be happy to pump it up and kind of talk about where they're from as well. All right, I think I'm speaking too much. Dominique, let's go.
I thought you were going to share Boundless Grace.
You talk about Boundless Grace.
No, I want you
to. Amazing Grace. So I don't have the Amazing Grace. So Boundless Grace and Amazing Grace, they're two in a series. And so Grace wants to have her father back. Her dad got married and has left the home. And now not only has he left the home, he has moved back to his native Africa. And, you know, she's upset. She has a new stepmother. She doesn't want to deal with it. And, you know, decisions of, you know, adolescence and how she has to come together and she has to figure out. So similar to what this one, we're talking about the new baby coming in and then the new mom coming in and the new family coming in. So Grace has to figure out how to deal with that and get that together. Again, another beautifully written book in terms of the aesthetic, and the illustrator here in terms of how they were able to get the pictures and you see my notes from 603 there. And how the community, so the community is taking shape and how she has to consider herself a part of this new African community and liaise with the stepmom and the stepmom's mom and things like that. And so it's a book about her decisions and her choices, but it's also a book about love and family and the larger family and the African community. And myself, I've taught in South Africa for a few years with the program, and so I always bring books in about Africa and the African life into my teaching because it's a place I love, and you will also love this one too. This is gonna also spark a lot of family conversations, but there won't be any war with this one.
No.
Where your move, there's war. Like there's lots of good debate. So this is Boundless Grace. And guys, I want you to know that there's another one called Amazing Grace. So there are two of them. Okay. All right. So now I'm gonna pass to Dee, and she's gonna talk about some things that she brought from Brooklyn,
and some things that you have here.
Okay. Yes.
Because I see.
So so we're moving from the picture book. And then we also have like stacks and stacks of culturally relevant novels, chapter books. Careful, Dee. And I know we have too many to get through.
Yeah, we're not gonna go. We're not gonna go through everything.
We're just pumped. We're so excited to be able to share all this with you. And we picked, and so yeah.
Yes. So if when we initially talked about a culturally relevant text, remember we had that conversation about, oh, you know, we just need to get books, or in my mind, I said, oh, okay, I can just get all of my books with, you know, the African American kids,
the Black people,
all the books with the Black people on them. That's what we're going to talk about. Great. And then we kind of had to stop,
pump the brakes,
and say, wait a minute, no. So that just because that's where we teach and that's who we teach doesn't mean that there aren't culturally relevant texts that need to be shared and read and discussed with other races too.
Correct.
So I went through kind of my classroom library, kind of dusted off some of them, which I feel kind of bad. The kids don't really like them as much. Right. But, you know, again, that speaks to the cultural relevance of the text that I have in the library. And the ones, there's some that they just don't like. Like this one. I love Baseball in April, and it's by Gary Soto. It's a bunch of short stories, but a lot of them involve Hispanic children, teenagers, and most importantly, boys. Yes. So the connections that a lot of my Hispanic boys make with the stories in this book is really, really, really deep, and we end up having good conversation, and it gives them a chance to talk about their culture and their experiences, and how, you know, it's a little different for them growing up in some of the areas where they you know, they don't see a lot of things that they can relate to.
Right.
So I love Gary Soto.
Yeah.
Really good for read aloud, short stories. I've even used a couple of the stories in some of my guided reading groups.
Right.
Helps for small group discussions and writing about text. Excellent choice.
And another Gary Soto one, Living Up the Street, and Jesse. So we kind of just put all our, you know, we kind of genre'd them out, or, you know, subjected them out in terms of by author, right? So yeah, and what we're seeing in Brooklyn, right? We are seeing so many, such a huge immigrant population, and they're coming from the Central American rural communities, Honduras and Nicaragua, and, you know, some Belize students, and, you know, and the boys are there, and they kind of come in, they're very shy, they don't want to talk, and so
and they don't want to read,
right.
and it's, you know, and they're looking at some of the books, and they're just kind of commenting like, these they don't interest me. Can I just read a comic book? Can I get a graphic novel? Yes, you can. However, in order for you to really get a rich reading kind of comprehension schema under your belt, you need to read something other than comic books and graphic novels. So that leads me to
oh, I love this one.
She
told me about this one yesterday.
Lisa, I hope I'm saying it right, Yee. Lisa Yee, she's an Asian author, and she writes books that kind of speak to their cultural relevance. And, you know, this girl in particular, Girl Genius, she gets skipped to high school. She's very young. She doesn't fit in. Nobody likes her.
Oh, God.
And she ends up having to tutor another Asian boy who's a basketball player, which for the kids in the room, they're like, he's a basketball player.
So they're stereotypes.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So then it brings up the conversation about stereotyping. And I always ask, well, why can't he be a basketball player?
Just because he's Asian.
Right. And then they get into the conversation, well, he's Asian. You know, they don't really play basketball. I said, well, what do they play? You know, so we kind of have that conversation and go through. That's always the initial discussion, and then we get into the reading. And she has to learn how to play volleyball also, and that's another conversation. Why is she playing volleyball? You know, is she even tall enough? That comes up.
Oh my God, it's like they have all these biases.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Wow.
I mean, but they're kids, and they end up learning. And then for the kids who may think, oh, this is not relevant to me, but they get to learn about another culture. Correct. And we kind of get to dispel those biases that they have, and the myths and all the things that they thought about this group of people that's not true. Right. So there's a series of books. She ends up tutoring the guy from this other book. So the dust kind of gets off of this one, and some of the girls start to read it, and the boys, some of them pick up the other book with Stanford Wong and how he flunks and he can't play basketball because he's failing, which then they can relate to. And they're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. You know, I had to sit out a couple of games because I failed some tests, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And and he's not good in math. And they're like, well, what do you mean he's not good in math? Like usually all the Asian kids in my class are always really good in math. So it just brings such really good discussion. Okay, moving right along. Dumpling Days, which is also another really good book. Pacey Lin is the main character in this book. Her family goes to Taiwan for a month. She grew up in America. She knows that her parents are from Taiwan. She understands that, but she does not want to go. She's actually upset that she has to leave America for a month and go. But of course, the plot thickens. She learns things. She goes on all these adventures. She ends up loving it there.
Nice.
And she kind of doesn't want to leave. So that's Dumpling Days.
I love the title.
Yeah, the title really kind of draws a lot of the kids in. They're like, Dumpling Days. You mean like the dumplings that I order when we get Chinese food? Right. I'm like, yep, you should read it. It was like, is it a cookbook? Yeah. You know,
so cute though. I would bring them. I would like you know, if I had a little cash, I would order up some dumplings that day.
Yeah, that would be
Right?
cute.
And, you know, just have a couple of dumplings in their groups, and they can read, and then we can eat, and then we
Yeah,
can eat,
I
and then we
never
can
thought of
read.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would
stealing
definitely,
that idea.
I would definitely do that.
Yes. Okay. So we have, I think,
5 minutes?
5 minutes. Oh
Okay.
no.
All
Okay.
right. Blueford.
You want to talk about
No,
Blueford?
go.
All right. So the Blueford series. Love this series. I moved down from 8th grade to 5th grade, and I realized I had a lot of 5th graders last year who didn't enjoy reading, and the books that they had, they were really used to a lot of kind of fantasy, Harry Potter, and all of those like graphic novels, Smile and drama and all that, and they wouldn't read books like novels. So I bought in my Blueford books, and they fell in love with them. Some disclaimer for 5th graders, they're 9 and 10 is really not that appropriate.
Right. 8th grade.
Yeah.
Grade.
However, I had a lot of kids that had stayed behind. So a lot of them, I had a group of kids that were 12.
Yeah.
And we kind of sat down and talked about, when I read this, what should I do? I said, take it home, show it to your parents, you know, talk about it. Because the topics of these books are really for secondary teenagers, older kids. Talks about, you know, teenage pregnancy, gun violence, you know, girl drama. These girls
bullying.
Don't like me.
Yeah,
a lot of bullying. And then the other thing about these is that they're $1.
Yes,
so
they're very cheap. And
very
so,
cheap.
You know, if it comes down to getting a book in the hand, then yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a couple of the sports, if the kids like sports, so Andre Stoudemire, was he a Nick? I can't remember.
Amari Stoudemire?
I'm sorry, Amari Stoudemire, the NBA player?
Yeah, I don't know if he's still playing for the Knicks.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So he's written a series of books called Stat. So Standing Tall and Talented. And these are great books. Schooled is the first, is one. Then we have, what is this? Most Valuable. And then we have Home Court. These actually probably belong to my nephews, not me. Yeah, this belongs to my nephew, so I'm giving him, so I'm saying AJ's giving you a book, but I need to return these to him. But these are great books in terms of your boys, again, African-American boys getting a book in the hand, getting a book in the hand and just plopping down and reading. So African-American boys also with the stereotypes that all African-American boys can play basketball. No, all of them can't, but the ones who are interested in basketball would like these. Can you do this? The Sharon, okay, so Sharon Flake, I always mistake Sharon Flake. I don't always mistake, but I always want to make sure I'm saying Sharon Flake, not Sharon Draper, which is another one, but Sharon Flake, who's really active on Twitter, which is a really great,
yes, we love you, Sharon.
Love you, Sharon. Love you, Sharon. So I tweeted Sharon Flake. She tweeted me back, sent me the book on tape, a bag, a cape for the kids to take a picture in, just a whole bunch of Octavia May swag. So this is her newest book, and it's set in the 50s, so the children can have like a humanities kind of spin to it in terms of social studies and a little bit of history, and it's a little bit of a mystery as well. So Octavia May is a whip smart, quick-witted, and very curious little girl. She likes to tell people what she thinks, and so a lot of characterization can be done with this book. It is a novel. It's quite thick, and so you'd have to, kind of, get your bearings and figure out how you're going to divvy it up. But it is get a class set in there and use this one for lots of humanities kinds of texts. And Sharon Flake, again, really, really active on Twitter, and she loves teachers. If I have another 10 seconds, I want to talk to you about the Who Is and the Who Was books.
Yes, love this series.
Yeah, this series is amazing. So there is Who Is, people who are living now. Who is Michelle and Barack? Again, students of color need to see these kinds of books and see our African-American president and first lady. So Who Is. Then we have Where Is. So there's a whole series of these books. Where is this, and that? So this one is Where is the Great Wall? Again, you want to talk to the kids about where things are. This one I bought specifically because of the Chinese student we had, And, you know, and that student was able to talk about the Great Wall because she had been there. And here's the book. Then we have, so far we have, remember, we have who is, where is, right? Then we have who was, so people who are not living, notable Americans who are not living, or notable humans in the world. So this one's who was Harriet Tubman, and if you can hold that up, Dee, the companion, what was. So these are great companion books here. What was the Underground Railroad? Who was Harriet Tubman? Like sickly, intensely good books. Dee's gonna keep that open, and I'm just gonna open this one this way. And very quick reading, narrative nonfiction, moves really quick, black and white, no color. Just, again, sickly, intensely, really good reads. Again, culturally relevant because the African-American connection. And then we have who was Rosa Parks and who was Nelson Mandela. Okay, so we have who was, where is, who is, and what was. I think we covered it. I'm not sure how much time we have left. We can talk for another 2 hours. We have enough books here.
We definitely do.
I don't know. We didn't kind of stop to kind of figure out any tweets or anything. We were just talking so much. But we're out of time. Okay, so I think we're out of time. We just saw Frances, our amazing tech host, is telling us we're out of time. So I want to take a moment to tell Dominique how much I love her, and I want to thank her. I kind of roped her into it. Wanted to write the proposal. I couldn't reach her, and I just said, Dee, I kind of put you down for a proposal, and we were accepted. And she's like, okay. And so I want to publicly take a moment to thank her and tell her.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was great. So she came all the way from Brooklyn to be here because I'm lazy. I didn't want to drive. So we're in New Jersey, but thank you, Dee. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks everybody for watching. Yes. This is so exciting. Last year I was watching it, and now we're doing it. And yeah, that's it. So you can follow me at EdCamp Brooklyn. Our next event is in April, and follow Dee at
TeachDK6.
All right. And that's it. Hey, Frances!
Thank you both so much. That was fantastic, Julian and Dominique. So many fantastic titles. I am an international teacher, and I think a lot of people tuning in are international teachers, so I'm sure they are they're frantically taking notes and writing down titles. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone.
Were we talking too fast?
No, no, we've got them. Thank you. And thank you everyone who is listening. Please stick around. Our closing session will start in about 10 minutes, and it's the International Literacy Association. Young Educators Are Changing the World. It's going to be fantastic, so I hope everyone gets to see it. Thank you.